Does law enforcement help private investigators? It's a great question, and the short answer is it depends. Hi, Tim Santoni, been a private investigator for over 20 years. Work with clients in the legal space, insurance, brand owners, business owners, helping mitigate risk in their business by developing verified information. Our tagline is know everything. Today I want to talk about private investigators and how they can work with law enforcement to get information. The question becomes, when it comes to hiring an investigator, does that immediately mean you're going to get rapport with law enforcement who may be investigating a certain situation where you get information that others may not have? I want to share a recent case where we were investigating a case where our client needed to serve a restraining order on an individual who had been making threatening calls, text messages, showing up at her house, and doing some really awful things to her family and friends. In this situation, the only lead we had for the subject was his name, his parents' house, and a vehicle that was driven by his girlfriend. We did everything we could to try and develop an address where we could serve the individual with a temporary restraining order, and we were just coming up empty. In this situation, we were able to run the plate of the vehicle that was observed by our client's Ring camera in front of their house. And this vehicle is registered to the subject's known girlfriend. In this situation, I reached out to the detective assigned to the case, and he was able to give us a possible address for the girlfriend where we might be able to serve the subject. We sent our investigator out and were able to successfully serve the subject at his girlfriend's house where we observed the vehicle driven by him previously. In this situation, we fed the information back to the law enforcement officer who was investigating the case because it happened to be outside the jurisdiction, and this was helpful. So we validated the information he provided based on the vehicle registration information, which allowed them to follow up and conduct interviews and investigations and questions regarding the criminal case. Additionally, allowed us to keep our hearing on with the court so the temporary restraining order was granted, and then we were able to serve the permanent restraining order at the address where we served him initially. And then we were able to serve the permanent restraining order at the same address and give the client the peace of mind and make them feel safe again. Without this information, this exchange from law enforcement, it may have been impossible to get the individual located and served. If you have any questions about private investigators and how they can work with law enforcement, please let me know.